Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Campbell, Senior Director at Peloton. Thank you for joining and welcome to July's interval training, which is the second part in our risk management series. The format for today is roughly 25 minutes of a fireside chat with my colleague Andrew and a very special guest from Oracle. A few housekeeping items before we get started. Everyone will be muted during the training and chat will be disabled. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A and we will try to get to them at the end. If we don't have time or don't get to your question, please feel free to reach out to us directly. Without further ado, I will turn it over to you, Andrew, so we can get into this fireside chat.
Cool, but I don't have a fireplace, so I'm just going to roll with it. Hello, everybody. My name is Andrew. I am the Oracle Risk Management Practice Leader here at Peloton Consulting Group. And for the next 24 minutes, Aman and I are going to have a brief discussion on Oracle Risk Management, or RMC, how to use it to reduce costs, automate your high-risk controls, deliver results that a CFO or an audit committee may be actually looking at. But we're not going to get into theory. We're going to share numbers, quantifiable numbers that come from a variety of sources to back them up, and talk about these benchmarks and how we've run client engagements to achieve these benchmarks. So today I'm joined by Aman Desouza, the VP of Oracle Risk, and I'd like to turn over to you, Aman, for a brief introduction of your background.
Sure. Thanks, Andrew. And thanks, Rebecca, and thanks to Peloton for having me here. So really appreciate the partnership and what you guys are doing now in Risk Cloud. So I'm in the development side of Oracle on a team, we call it ourselves Risk Cloud Product Strategy. We effectively design this product and work with engineering to build it. We spend a lot of time working with trusted partners like yourselves and customers, helping them understand what the product does, and then after that, following through and circling back with customers, making sure that they're getting full value from the product. So making sure effectively that they are getting the value that we promised pre-sale. So we call that outbound pre and post sale. So and that's the side that I typically operate in. We all work together because what we learn from customers during sales and during their use actually goes right back into the product. So it's a healthy, virtuous cycle. So happy to engage, and we are excited that you guys are now fully in the Risk Cloud business, because only a small segment of the ERP procurement HCM partners that we have are actually able to deploy Risk Cloud and deploy it well. And because of that, we work very closely with you guys. Andrew and I have a great partnership, and we've built up a good line of business over the years. So really appreciate that. Anything else you'd like me to add to this, Andrew, at this time?
No, I think I got a couple bullet points. We'll talk about what we're going here to discuss, talk about some ROIs, how to quantify them, and then we'll wrap it up with like a 90-day cycle where they find monies, how to save monies, and so forth. So I think in the time allowed, we can get through that. So let's start with three numbers. And well, actually, let me back it up. So here's the agenda. One, we're going to talk about the hidden cost of risk and where it lies within the Oracle environment, and the surprises customers find when they actually see them. Second, we're going to talk about the three automation engines that drive within RMC and what each one eliminates and drives cost savings for it. And then third, we'll conclude this webinar or this fireside chat with a 90-minute roadmap with specific defensible ROI metrics that your leadership team may be able to present to the board. And with that, we open up with this slide. So if you start to look at these numbers, right, we have 200,000, 250 hours, and 1 to 4 time X, right? These are real numbers surveyed from a number of customers, both in public and private enterprises, that substantiate the savings in terms of dollars, time, and effort that one would achieve through the implementation of Oracle RMC. Okay. So $200,000, how do I back that up? That's typically what an audit firm would charge to compile SOD reports, right? So if you big four audit firms, you're going to see a bill, and I can speak from experience because I signed off on that invoice for that particular amount of money for an SOD prior to implementing Oracle RMC, right? 250 hours, that's a manual effort. I think it's a range of manual effort that goes into that's typically expended for the manual time that it takes you to do your certifications, to produce evidence, to produce sample sizes, to do rework, etc. That's true. It's real. I lived it. And then 4 times is like how many times per, how many weeks or times per year does an audit firm typically cycle through this? And audits, you have your pre-audit and your real audit and your post-audit. So there's costs, like there's quantifiable costs that are incurred when you're public or private, depending on what you're doing. And these things are eliminated through the Oracle Risk Management Cloud implementation. But what are the drivers behind it, right? So what are the drivers that drive these costs up, right? So if I were to touch on them, number one would be poorly designed rules, right? So, an SOD finding from an audit would be like your roles are poorly defined. You don't know what they're doing. They have significant segregation of duty issues. It's an issue, right? So it involves remediation. There's post-go live costs that go in there as well at fixing all of them, fixing all the roles, etc. So what does RMC do is it allows you to run a simulation before you deploy the role into production, which would catch that combination and or toxic combination well before, so you get to remediate it instead of your auditor finding it and telling you what it is, right? I think you would agree with that, Aman.
100%.
Yeah. So then we talk about, like, again, late SOD surprises, through UAT, when you're running through your implementation, you don't want to find that you have a role that's in conflict at UAT. That should be found much sooner in CRP1 or Sprint 1, whatever you want to refer it to, depending on your methodology. But finding them within UAT is going to incur costs, right? Because there's a rework, there's a redesign, etc., right? And then audit's going to come in and look at it, and your internal audit team's going to come in and look at it and say, hey, listen, we've discovered this. Not good, got to fix it. So an Oracle RMC product allows you to figure those out or find those early on in your cycles, so you can remediate and design accordingly well before you go live. The third tool party spend is incorporated into this money. If you're running a third party product to reveal or to bring forth SOD compliance issues, there's costs involved in licensing, there's costs involved in implementation, and there's costs involved in maintaining that license on a go forward, right? Something you didn't necessarily, and we've seen where these costs continue to add up. And also we've seen where these tools are not really insightful enough to pull out the true SOD compliance issues. And you end up with something that goes into an audit and you eventually have a deficiency. Okay. Anything to add on this slide, Aman, or I can just move to the next one from your perspective?
I think this is perfect. This is good.
Okay. So moving to our next.
It's all about awareness and bring that to the attention, because a lot of customers, when they go into their ERP procurement HCM deployments, they're simply not aware of that. And so they relegate it to later. And the later they do it, the more expensive that decision becomes.
Oh, and it gets amplified. The expense gets amplified and amplified and amplified. And we see this every single time we walk into an implementation that where risk has not been deployed through the primary solution or through the primary digital transformation. We see these issues and we remediate these issues through the deployment of Oracle, where they could have been caught up front and dealt with. So moving on to this slide, how do you quantify a real ROI in 90 days, right? I mean, it is quantifiable. You prevent, you monitor your access, you monitor activity, and you manage your controls. So, Aman, if you were to take the first one about preventing SOD violations and advanced access, I think we're in agreement on those 4 points.
Absolutely. I think the main point here is when you when you're talking to a customer about their ERP deployment, okay, um, they may not have thought about SOD at all. They may not have included it in their requirements to Oracle. They may not have the right people, the people who actually care about this and aware of this. They may not even be on the decision team. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is educate and make sure that they are aware, that they include the internal controls people, that they start thinking about separation duties. Okay. And if they're willing, include it in your proposal. If they're not, at minimum, recommend it. It's a lot easier for a customer when Oracle recommends it and their trusted partner recommends it. Okay. If you recommend it and Oracle recommends it, usually the customer takes it seriously and moves forward. And it's in their best interest. And it's, of course, good business for Oracle and you. If you don't, if you stay quiet, it's not in the best interest of the customer because they fall victim to having to retroactively fix separation of duties violations rather than getting it right up front.
Yeah, I think the only thing that's missing on these 4 points is SOD, if it's not remediated, could lead to fraud opportunities.
Yep.
Right? The ability to create an invoice, create a supplier, approve that invoice, and create the bank accounts, etc. So you have fraud, right? And there's so many documented cases now of fraud occurring internally to organizations that I don't even think you could quantify the number. So SOD violations, advanced access controls, putting preventative monitoring reduces that or completely eliminates it. And that's a hard number to actually quantify. Okay.
Absolutely. And so one other comment here. This often becomes a cross-functional conversation at the customer because when you look at the left side of this page, you're usually talking to IT security, right? People who are IT compliance, maybe. They care about separation of duties. They care about monitoring of access. But then as you get from monitoring access to monitoring user activity, now you're more likely talking to internal audit, your third line of defense, and maybe process owners, right? They care about what's going on in your process. So to build the business case internally for your customer, you got to talk, it's a cross-functional conversation. The thing that when you're talking to IT, the thing to remind them about is that access violations are potential risk. The real risk is in activity. Okay. Access is what people could do. But when there is an activity violation, that's what people have done. Okay. What Risk Cloud does is combine the two. It helps you reduce the potential for risk and actually monitor for real risk. Okay. And that's what you're bringing to the table on day one.
Yeah. And I would say it's not just IT, it's not just internal audit or work stream leads, it's the personas that get included in this conversation are CEO, CFO, CISO. They all have vested interest in eliminating risk from the enterprise, right? And compliance.
Yep, totally.
So, exactly. And I can attest to like reducing audit consulting fees by 100,000. Again, real number, 250 hours on access, real number, fine-grained SOD reports, these are real things that happen. And so one of the things that we bring to the table as an organization is enhanced SOD reporting. And what we like to do is show the SOD as it stands today, pre-implementation, and use that as a benchmark as we walk through the redesign and remediation of roles, either one, and then show them where they started and where they ended up and all the potential things we eliminated. And again, that becomes an unquantifiable number, but it's more than $100,000 or $250,000. Okay. And then I think lastly, when you talk about monitoring user activity, it's throughout the entire application stack. It's not just GL or AP or AR. It's the entire, you're doing the entire procure to pay work stream. You're doing record to report, order to cash, and hire to retire, right? No longer can someone do a quick hire, quick pay. No longer could someone receive inventory and then disperse inventory without having an audit trail attached to it, et cetera, et cetera. So if there's nothing else to add on this slide, what I'm going to do is move to the next one. And this is where we'll probably wrap up. So using the previous slide and the tools available of monitoring, providing access, and across the four work streams that we mentioned, there is when you start to look at it, what are my returns from day 1 to 30, 30 to 60, and 61 to 90, right? When you look at it, so 1 to 30, you're just basically implementing the technology, you're bringing forth the design ideas, you're having discussions, but you're really uncovering where things may lie that need to be fixed, right? You're introducing the concept of advanced access controls. And there's a wonderful library that comes with 100 pre-built roles, but as a partner and having done this through many, many implementations successfully, we have our own library, and I think the library we have internally is in excess of 500 roles that we've built across all verticals. I think that's an important point, and Aman, maybe you can touch on it, that risk is not an industry agnostic solution. It goes across, right? We do healthcare, we do retail, we do commercial. I mean, where is there not risk?
Nowhere. It's just different types of risk. And
exactly.
Pretty much every industry. Now, sometimes a customer might get stuck on, I don't have to do SOX. Okay. And so I don't think we need this. That's actually not true for a very simple reason. Even if SOX is just the requirement, but it's actually a requirement for things that you should be doing anyway. It's just good, solid management practice. Okay. So we actually have, customers, we're not public. We don't need this. Actually, about a third of our customers are privately held because they have stakeholders who care. They have stakeholders who want strong internal controls. And it's not only about internal controls, it's also about cybersecurity. Okay. When a customer moves to Fusion, Oracle provides security of the application down, but the customer, along with you guys as the partner who guiding them and helping them, is responsible for security in terms of how role-based access is configured, who they grant access to, and what those people are doing with that access. Okay, and Risk Cloud is effectively the X-ray that helps them monitor all of that at scale with automation and AI embedded.
And then probably another point you can add to that is geolocation. It allows you to see who's doing what from what location, or where are they coming in and trying to do things in your environment. You can have insights into why is Sally coming into AP at 2:00 in the morning. It certainly isn't the process and invoice. That's is there some nefarious activities occurring that we didn't have visibility into previously, right? And then when we talk about the 30 to 60 day windows and we start to build in controls and roles across all the different work streams, the implementation team can move faster because they can work with roles that are configured to meet the requirements of the business, but also respect the SOD and compliance as it relates to the business, right? And then we can demonstrate that. And then when we get from 60 to 90, this is where your ROI gets measured. You have built a completely secure environment that satisfies the needs of the CISO, the CEO, the CFO, your work stream, internal audit, and external audit, where applicable. So these hours add up, these dollars add up in the transactions. I think the one point, Aman, we didn't really focus a lot on is the 100% transaction coverage. Whereas if you start to look at some of the third-party solutions that are available in the market, they don't look at 100% of the transactions. They don't look at 100% of the access cases. It's a subset at very best. Whereas when you implement...
It is a subset. So a lot of customers are actually sampling. And when you're sampling, you could be sampling for years and miss out on significant issues. And so that's why sometimes when you look at the ACFE report on fraud, they say, very often fraud cases go on for years before they're discovered. Okay. With 100% transaction coverage, you're monitoring your entire data set. And with the cloud, you can do that at scale. Okay. On-prem, doing your own system, it was not possible. Now it is possible. So now I get asked by customers the opposite question, which is, why can't I do this with AI? You certainly can try, right? And here are the two catches with that. One, when you do that, you are exposing your data. Okay. A big value proposition of Fusion is that it is all under one security umbrella. Your data stays secure. Okay. The way we do that is by adding additional compute to a customer's global single instance. So their data never leaves Oracle security. It all stays in that one container. Okay. Instead, if you extract that data and expose it, now you're adding, exposure and, surface area. Attack surface area is now, your responsibility. You're adding to it, you're responsible. The other thing is the Fusion data set is well known, well established, connected by us. So we take responsibility for the provenance of the data, completeness, timeliness of that analysis, right? And we do have AI built on, but it's built on layers with a data graph underlying it that makes the analysis reliable and auditable.
True. Two instances. One, I'll never forget, I walked into a customer where they had said they'd used a third-party AI-enabled tool that all their rules were SOD compliant. And we said, great. So we ran the analyzer. Wasn't the case. That led to an engagement. Second instance, a customer was transposing data directly from Oracle into spreadsheets for reporting to audit. Fat finger errors led to a material deficiency, which was not really a material deficiency. It was a transpose problem with a fat finger that made a mistake that led to an audit finding, which led to a larger problem that had to be fixed, right? These things happen. And when you run this, they do. And then firsthand knowledge and experience. So we have one question, actually we have two questions we can quickly answer. And one of them was, we're currently midway through an Oracle ERP implementation. An SOD hasn't been designed yet. Is it too late to bring in Oracle RMC, or what does that look like? Aman, do you have an opinion? I have an opinion.
Not at all. It's not too late, right? Ideal time is upfront before you start, but it is not too late. You're better off starting now and doing what you can to make sure that you've got the foundation in place and then continuing that beyond.
Yeah, and I'll support that answer because I 100% agree. At Peloton, we've built a number of tools that I mentioned earlier that we can pull some core reports and show your exact exposure today within 45 minutes. Okay, the other question we just received is, and this is the last one, you've mentioned 100% transaction coverage with AFC. We have a very customized Oracle environment with a lot of non-standard business processes. How does Oracle RMC handle that? And can we build our own controls?
Absolutely. So the fastest time to value is using some of our pre-existing control library. And you guys certainly have part of your control library. So using existing controls is going to be fastest time to value. Okay. That being said, we have business objects available. And so it is totally, you can totally design your own controls to suit your own purposes. And we encourage customers to do that. And we encourage partners to extend that. One thing to keep in mind, though, is when you're analyzing 100% of your transactions, okay, the analysis is now made easy. But what happens to your incident count? When you are sampling 50 transactions, right? Maybe you had 5 incidents or 1 or none. Right? When you're analyzing your entire data set, your incident count is going to be higher. And you're going to need to actually focus on them and remediate them, investigate, remediate. There's no point surfacing incidents and not investigating and remediating them. Okay. So one of the things that you absolutely want to do is take a prioritized approach, a risk-based approach, right? Start with the controls that matter most and deal with the incidents, and then work your way to the now new controls that matter most, right? And one of the things that we love about working with, our close partners is They're very familiar with that process and know how to guide customers. This is a domain where customers really do need guidance and expertise. And Andrew's been great to bring those customers to success.
Yeah, and I mean, wow, thank you. The only thing I'll add to that, maybe, Aman, is what we're missing to conclude that statement is when done right, a subset of controls, then adding to the controls through a process leads to adoption. Adoption leads to use, or vice versa. When you have that recipe all together, then you get true value from the module, right? You get the investigators, you get the admins, you get people all going in and using it as it's meant to be done, because information is not overwhelming or discouraging them from doing what they need to do. We have encountered incidences where they've overlaid 170 plus controls, and that's just like too much. You'll never get anywhere with it. So Aman, I'd like to thank you for participating in this fireplace chat, well, our fake fireplace chat. And with that, I think we're done. Rebecca, back to you.
Thank you both so much, Andrew, Aman. Incredible presentation, very compelling. Thank you, everyone who joined us today, and stay tuned for next month's interval training. Thank you.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Take care. See ya.
See ya.